I'm Helen Campbell and welcome to my YouTube channel, The Wonders of Watercolour. Have you ever struggled with painting from photographs? In this video tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how I made my photograph go from this to this and then painted this. It just means that it makes your photographs easier to paint and assess colour and tone and everything else. Not only that, have you ever finished your painting thinking it needs a little bit more colour or a little bit more tonal contrast, a bit of dark here and there? By using this app, it just means that it takes the guesswork out of it and you can add a little bit more colour through your app to see whether it will make your painting look worse or better. So before we dive in, you will need to download this app. It's called Pixelmator and it does everything you'll need for your photo edits. I ought to mention at this point that this app is only available for iOS. Okay, so this tutorial will only work if you've got an Apple device. Let's get started with the tutorial, but before we dive in, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the bell so that you don't miss any of my future videos, tips, tricks and hacks. Let's get started. Okay everybody, let's go with the photo edit. So you'll have already downloaded the Pixelmator app into your device. Now I ought to say really quickly, if you're editing on an iPad or an iPhone, the interface will be slightly different, but it will be really apparent what to do as we go through. Please don't think it's overcomplicated, it really isn't. Launch the app. Okay, now depending on if you've used it before or if you haven't, it will ask you permission for access to your photo roll, in which case you will say yes. Go to the plus sign on the top right hand side. At the bottom of your screen you'll see photos, presets and templates. Yet again, it doesn't matter which way you do this. I'm going to go to presets to have a blank sheet of paper which kind of represents our watercolour paper, and click on any one of the shapes that you see. I'm going to go for portrait, it doesn't matter. This will then take it into the photo editing area and you'll see here at the top some editing tools. Now there is a black area around the outside, that's just your, look at it as your table or the surface that you paint on normally. By squeezing your fingers together you can either decrease or increase the size of your paper. I'm going to leave it there for the purpose of this tutorial. Now you need to import your unedited photo onto this so that we can start to take the background out. It isn't necessary to take the background out. I like to do it because it just means it makes the painting element of it a lot easier, because without the background there to distract you when you're painting, it makes it much easier for you. So we need to put the photograph onto here. So to do that, go to the plus sign at the top and you'll see a drop down menu and it'll be really obvious where the photo roll is. It's this one here and it's drop down. Go to camera roll and select your pre-edited photo. This will then take it onto the blank sheet of paper. So this is the before shot with all the background in and everything else. Now you'll notice the blue dots around the outside. This means that gives you the opportunity to decrease or increase the size of it like that. And by clicking on the black area on the outside, the blue dots disappear and it merges these two pieces of paper together. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out the background, and to do this go to the paintbrush tool at the top and you'll see a drop down menu and select the word select. Here you have a number of selection tools and I'm always going to go for quick selection because it's a lot easier. Using your finger to go around the outside of the area that you want to select, it will paint over in a white colour. Now if you make a mistake, as I have done here, all you have to do is click on the undo button here. I want to keep the spoon in the area that I'm not painting out. So I'm starting on the bit that I want to finish at. So outside like this, all the way around. And the area that I've painted now becomes white. When you're happy with your selection, take your finger off and you'll see there are some dots around the outside. This means that this area is now masked off, ready to paint a white colour on top of. Click on the word done on the top right hand side. Go to your paintbrush tool and go to paint and erase. If you're doing this on an iPad, you'll see some figures here, medium, some digits and a colour. Medium is the softness of the brush that you're going to paint over it with. And this is the size of the brush and the colour is white. I'm going to keep it on medium. Go to the middle tool and you'll see here a drop down menu. By sliding my finger up, you can either increase or decrease the size of the brush and again the opacity here. Keep the opacity on 100% and the size of the brush quite high. The box you see here is the colour of the paint that we're using. We need to keep it on white for the time being. Using your finger, just go over the entire thing and you'll see how quickly it paints out the masked off area. And go to deselect at the top left hand side. This has now merged it all together. Now you can skip that side of it. If you're going to do a simple shape like this, you could probably paint around the outside of it just by hand, as I'm doing here, using my finger just to get rid of the rest of the paint. I've actually gone a bit too wide, so I'm going to go on to my brush size here and decrease it, and then using my finger just by going over this bit here, I can take away the little bit of brown background that's left. So that's the tricky bit out of the way. Click on the word done. I'm just going to crop this, brush tool, crop, and using your finger, once you're happy with the crop of your painting, click on the word apply on the top right hand side. So that's cleaned up the background. We can start to play around with it. Now the first thing I'd like to do to this painting, will be a little bit of background colour so that you can see what your finished painting will look like. Go to paint and erase and you'll see the same tools as before. So I'm going to want to select a colour that's kind of the same as the coffee colour here. So go to your paint colour here and you'll see a little colour picker pipette within there. Now by clicking on the pipette, you'll see a little square appear here. So by moving the square around, you can see that it actually changes colour wherever you put it within your photograph. I'm going to select a colour that's the same as the froth on the coffee here. Click on the word done. I'm going to change the opacity, so we go to the middle figure here, and I'm going to reduce the opacity to around about 100. And then I'm moving my finger here just to create a little bit of background colour. Now we did remove the background, so this probably seems a little bit of a silly thing to do. I know that I'm going to be painting a bit of background colour on there, so it gives me an idea of how it's going to look against the saucer. And I'm going to click on the colour selected tool again on the brush, and I'm going to put a little bit of grey by selecting this area here. You can change the background colour if you don't like the white or grey. You could make it a vibrant colour like a purple or a red, whatever you want to do. But it just gives you an idea on how your finished painting will look, and you can be as creative as you want to within this tool without ruining your painting. This is the joy of this. Now I'm going to try and maybe enhance this little shadow here, for example. So imagine you've painted your painting. It may be that you think, oh, it's finished, but I'm not sure whether this colour here is dark enough, or maybe it could do with a bit more tonal value, and you're worried about spoiling your painting that you've worked on so hard by adding some colour that you maybe don't need. By playing around with this app, you can see by adding a little bit of colour here and there how your finished painting will look. I'm now going to go back to the colour selector, and again the pipette, moving my square around to select the colour that I'm going to need. I want to pick a darkish colour. You'll see in the centre, it's very, very hard to see here, but there's a little cross, okay? And the cross will depict where you've actually selected the colour from. I'm going to go to the dark brown and click on the word done. And this time I'm going to put the size of the brush quite low at about an 8% and the opacity quite high, like this. These will be our sprinkles of coffee. In the painting tutorial that I will put up at the end of this video, you'll see how I painted these little splats on. in real life, but it just gives you the illusion of how your painting will look. Again, I'm going to decrease the brush size, and just again, once you're happy with that, click on the word done, and you can play around with this as much as you want to. I'm now going to pick a different color. You can move your slider here if you want to, rather than the pipette. I actually like doing it this way to make sure that I've got the correct size. So this time I'm going to change my brush size up and the opacity down. This created the little tide mark that you see in the painting. And once again, I'm going to make it slightly darker, and the opacity can go up and down. I'm going to change the opacity up and the size down. I want to add some detail to the tide mark here so that I can see what I'm doing, like so. And now, go back to Paint and Erase. I'm going to choose a black colour with the opacity right up and the size right down to about 2-3%. Here's where you can start to do your line and wash. I'm going around the outside with my finger. This will be the equivalent of using my ink pen around the outside to give you an illusion of line and wash. You may remember, if you've seen the painting tutorial already, I actually put this pretty much everywhere, and I even changed the colour of the spoon handle, but you can go around everything that you want to. Have a play around with it. This will give you a really good idea of how your finished painting will look. I tried to simplify this tutorial as much as I can, but I wanted you to see how easy it is just by playing around with it. Once you're happy with your edits, click on the word done on the top right hand side, and then you have the opportunity by clicking on the up arrow to save it. You can either save it to your copy to photos or copy image, or send a copy, it depends. I tend to copy to photos, that way I can keep the original photograph to refer back to if I need it. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please keep practicing with this app, because although it's a little daunting to begin with, I promise you that you'll soon get the hang of it, and it does mean that it makes your photographs a lot easier to paint. So stay tuned, hit the subscribe button and the bell, and thank you for watching.